Hello there. This is Coworking with Iris, where we talk about coworking, community, and this is episode 26. Today, I will be speaking with Kathuria, the founder of cowork.com. Kowrk provides a listing platform for shared workspaces and connects coworkers with over 150 spaces in Hong Kong, Singapore, and India, Cambodia, and the US. Today, we're talking about Kowrk's platform, the state of coworking in the South and Southeast Asia, and the future of work. Honey, welcome. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Hi, Iris. Thank you so much. And it's great to talk to you. I'm very excited to be here today.
Well, please tell us about yourself. What's your coworking story?
Well, my co-working story actually started some time back. It's actually around 2 years back when pretty much the second co-working space in Hong Kong was open. I was working at a high post as a manager for a big corporation, and I was looking to do something outside my work, and I happened to go to a lot of networking events. And my first was actually at a co-working space, and that's when I came across the concept. I was pretty fascinated by it, and then I had a friend who wanted to establish a business in Hong Kong, and she was there for just like 2-3 months. And so I said, okay, you should work out of a co-working space. And so I went with her to look for spaces, and by that time actually there were like I think around 25 spaces in Hong Kong, and she made me go with her to like around 10. And I was like, after fifth, I was like, no, this is not a way it can work. Why do you have to go to so many places? And she was like, oh, the websites, I'm not sure. I want to have a look and feel. There are no reviews and everything. And I was like, what you're going through is probably what everyone else is also going through who's looking for co-working spaces. So that's where, the idea of co-working or co-work started, to create a platform. But I always had like very big vision for co-work, and we'll talk more about it, I'm sure. So, we started it off more as an easy to use platform for everyone to just book a co-working space anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so now it's a love story. It's progressing, maturing now. My team in India works out of a co-working space. We have another space in Hong Kong. That's where my second office is. We work out of a shared workspace there as well. So pretty much a co-working girl now.
That's awesome. And so your goal was to provide an easier experience to people looking for a co-working space. How does that, I see that as sort of juxtaposed with the in-person experience you get when you are touring spaces. And I see that as probably an important part of really understanding if a space is going to work for you. So how do you bring that online or that offline experience online so that your people can find the space that's best for them without having to do a tour of all 10 spaces?
Yeah, see, I think that is actually the problem statement from user experience point of view that we are trying to solve. Of course, there is another part for the owners or providers of co-working spaces. But from the user's point of view, I as a user or, anyone, whenever we are looking at things, we are looking for genuine photographs. We are looking for description. We are looking at an ability to filter down the space or the various options based on what our preferences are. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest pointer in finalizing anything online is the reviews. So, if you look at for the reviews of co-working spaces on Google or on Facebook, you would see only like 4-star or 5-star, which like if everything is a top star, then there is really like nothing wrong, which is not possible. So we devised a very robust reviewing system at Cowork, where users are asked to review different criteria or different dimensions of a co-working space, along with just writing their experience. We also gather photos clicked by the users of co-working space to give you a more genuine feel of how the place looks like, rather than those candid shots, where there is this beautiful mug and great sunlight coming at a plant kind of a thing. So what we have done is with our platform, at any given point of time, at least 90% of the places on our platform have been verified through physical visits. So I or someone from my team have been on those have been to those places and have verified that whatever is being listed, whatever is being talked about, is something which actually exists. So we have taken a lot of like research, like out of 10, for example, which one is closer, where should I go, and define, which one all have the facilities that person is looking for, all completely taken down to online experience at Cowork, so that people can just filter out their search, read the reviews, and finalize where they would like to co-work. So I have to say one thing, we are seeing that adoption happening, like the visit exclusion happening when people are looking for meeting rooms or day passes or, let's say, short-term rentals. But when it comes to booking a private office or looking for a space for, let's say, 6 months or more time, we do see people scheduling visits, and which is fine, So that is also part of our objective, that at least you're not going to 10, you are actually now going to 2 or 3 places, which you have finally decided, found. So I think that the whole, a lot of information, both from the co-working spaces and the users who are there, and plus our team, the verification of the amenities, etc., has taken out a good portion of people who would have to visit the space before finalizing it.
And so I'm really intrigued by this this rating system that you've created. And I think there's several software companies out there that are providing software for co-working spaces that are really trying to provide a similar algorithm for members to rate each other, but really to rate the community aspect of the co-working space as a whole, and are referring to it as the community engagement score. So what are the factors that you look for, or that you use in this rating system? What are the ratings that people can offer?
So that's where I think a lot of our research went into, in terms of like what we should be doing, and how do we get the most unbiased review or feedback out from people. Because before I delve into the dimensions and more into review system, I think we need to understand that what happens at co-working spaces is that when people are reviewing it, they're actually reviewing the management team. It's become like a personal relationship. Hey, I'm working here. Hey, I went there, kinds of. It's not like really for the facilities or the co-working space per se. It is more, of like, oh, great place, great founder, this and that, which are like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't work. For example, when you're looking at a hotel room and a review of it, you do not want to know that just that the management team is good, or the person who founded the hotel is great. That's the kind of review that actually currently exists for a lot of places on their Facebook pages and on their listings on Google. So in order to come out of that was the problem we started off with. What we did, we have created a 5-dimension reviewing system. So people are asked to review a co-working space, and at an overall rating, which is basically, how well do you think it does. We have seen a lot of people giving spaces like 4 or 5, which they usually do on other platform also. But we then ask people to rate separately the amenities, the staff, networking opportunities, and the accessibility of a space, as 4 other different dimensions. And what we saw when we run the trial with that review system is that everyone went and rated, overall score as 4 and 5, because they thought that's what matters. But we saw amenities being rated at 3, or let's say accessibility being rated at 2 in some cases. And it's like, then the story started coming out. Now, when as a user, I'm reading someone's experience, which is, yeah, everything is good. But I looked at that they have scored, let's say, location or accessibility to be 3. I would want to know, okay, there is something, something not right here. There is some issue which is not coming out. So then what we do as part of Cowork is we try to find out, we read those reviews. I read those reviews all the time. And we try to see what is it that users are trying to say, but they're not really coming out with, So sometimes, we take that feedback. When we research the co-working space, we put it in their description that, probably look for, let's say, parking space is an issue, or connectivity with public transportation can be a challenge. It is actually a 20 minutes walk, and that's why people are giving it lower rating, etc. So that's what we have done. And of course, there is like verbatim review for people to just write their experiences.
Mm-hmm. So really, it's almost like you're describing a two-step, excuse me, a two-step rating process.
Yes.
Where you and your team visit each site and sort of give it the Kowrk seal of approval or
Yes.
verification by Kowrk, and then the users also rate the site.
Yes.
Moving along, how do you, just kind of thinking about this from the owners and operators perspective, because there's a lot of listing platforms out there, right?
Right.
And for an owner operator, it can sort of be overwhelming, you know, to list your space on so many listing services at the same time. That brings you Google juice, so you probably should, unless you don't need members. But how do you encourage the owners and operators to, or what incentives do you offer them to have their users rate their spaces in this way? Because that's a fair amount of work for the member to do as well.
Yes, it is. It is. So actually, the challenge for owners and operators, as you said, in terms of, there are so many listing platforms out there right now, I completely understand it. And that's why, in order to, our offering is not that you just list your space and get members. That's what everyone else is doing. Cowork's main value proposition for operators is that, when we send someone through our platform, and if that person doesn't convert, if that lead doesn't convert, we actually follow up with the customers. So we offer this complete feedback loop for the owners and operators, where we share what the users have told us verbatim with the operators. So we have had, it's because we are third party. Users have been very open with us in some countries, not in all. But we have actually got, feedback for companies which they wouldn't have probably ever gotten. And, it's like, okay, this is the thing, like, at the entrance, the way, I've been greeted, it was a put off, and I want to have like my meetings being conducted there. I would not be very comfortable. People leave spaces for this reason.
Yeah.
And, when we shared that feedback with one of the co-working spaces, they were like, oh, okay, really, we can do something about it. We never realized that that's a put off for our customers, our potential users. So, that's, I think, is one of the biggest value add that Kowrk makes. We go that extra step. Of course, it's a lot of operations work for my team, to follow up with different people. And our success rate is not 100%. We do not get positive or any kind of constructive feedback from everyone. But when we do, it is actually very helpful for the operators to know about. And we just don't believe in like just list yourself and we send you the the candidates and you deal with them. We do a lot of more stuff. So for example, Kowrk, we have set up a LinkedIn group for the CXOs of co-working spaces. So the operators and the owners, they can join, and we have, I think, more than 35 users at present, and they're from all over the world actually. We have people from South America. We have like, Australia, New Zealand. So it's great. They do some kind of conversation. But, as more and more people would join that group, I think it would give them a platform to just interact with each other.
So this is, just to be sure I understand, you're connecting the owners and operators across the world in a peer group. Creating community for those owners and operators, and a place for them to share business best practices. I see.
Exactly. So, because I think that it's not that they have to create a community, they need to have their community as well. So, the unconferences which happen for co-working, that definitely gives a platform for everyone to travel and, share their thoughts. We thought that why not just do it online, where anybody can come and, they can just interact and discuss their problems or ask for feedbacks, etc. So we did that. We did a survey of the founders of co-working spaces earlier this year to understand what do they think about future of co-working, which was a big success. And we just now concluded another competition or contest which we ran on global scale. It was to find what we defined as the coolest co-working space in the world, where we ask people to nominate their spaces or the users to nominate their spaces if they think it's cool for various reasons. So just to summarize my point, it's like we provide a full feedback loop for the co-working spaces, a feedback that they would probably not get on why the conversions are not taking place. So we help them actually increase their future sales, even if when they are not coming via Cowork. We are creating a community for the founders and the members or the CXOs. We are running competitions to give them extra visibility in among their peers and in the world. And we are engaging with their users a lot. Just to for example, we are currently running a competition for Indian co-working spaces where we will reward a user at the end of the month, next month actually, for writing a review, for the most helpful review. So, we take away the work from co-working spaces to gather reviews for their spaces by reaching out their customers and saying, hey, if you review your co-working space on our platform, you can win a voucher of Amazon. So, we kind of take away their work and do their job so that they get more visibility, they get more publicity, they get a platform where they can interact with their peers just by being associated with Cowork.
Wow. Yes, this is certainly much more than a listing service.
It is.
There's a lot there, but I want to also talk a little bit about the future of work and what's happening, in the cities and the countries that you're traveling through and working with. But I am curious about the Coolest Co-working Space Award. So what was the criteria of this award?
So this was amazing. We were overwhelmed with the response. The idea for us was actually, we wanted to do something more than just, as I said, listing, right? We wanted to find out, and this is something which we're going to do every year, is like a competition series. And I know a lot of other startups don't believe in doing this, but Cowork has just been different. We said, okay, there are so many places out there. In India, there are I think 70. In Hong Kong itself, there are 45 spaces, etc. Which one is what is it that users really like about co-working spaces, or what is it that can really attract others? Just learn from what's good with other co-working spaces. So we created 4 dimensions, or basically 4 categories under which a co-working space can be specified as cool. There was networking events. So if they're organizing amazing networking events, the concept of community came there. The amenities or the facilities that are being provided, we did get some wacky entries in that category, by the way. There was staff support. So, what are the people around there doing in order to make the user's life more, less stressful? And if there was anything else that people thought which was exciting. So we received the entries from all over the world, and actually our judges who had a very tough time finding the winner, which was one of the co-working spaces in India, actually, which won it. But we actually gave 3 special mentions to other co-working spaces from across the world for doing just great things. And they were voted by their own users. People working there took time out to nominate them. It just shows there are some great things that these co-working spaces are doing at present, where they are being appraised, where their users are taking time out to say good things about them.
Yes, wonderful. And what was the name of the winning space?
So it's called Beehive. It's in Bangalore, which is a city in India. They have 3 locations right now, but I think they're expanding. And they won because they have a Zen garden. So their users said that they would like to just sit there and relax. So they also have, I think I'm not sure, but I think they had more than 400 events in a year, which is because they have 3 different locations, they're actually doing an event a day, kind of a thing. And their founders were they had raving reviews of their founders. So they actually, the reason they won was because they were nominated by their users for each and every category.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations to Beehive. Wonderful. And so what's next with the Coolest Co-working Space Award? You said you're going to do this again and again.
Yes, yes. I think so. We give a, I have to say, we give a special mention to Outpost, which is in Bali, Indonesia, Level Office in USA because of the, the amazing, their past, they have multiple locations.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one was Oosh for Startup in Hong Kong, again nominated by their users for the staff support, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we want these special mentions and the others to have a chance to grab the coolest co-space contest or the title next year. Actually, immediately right now, we are just about to send out the trophies to Beehive, or rather the trophy to Beehive. So I'm very excited that that's going out next week, finally.
Oh,
um,
awesome.
yes. So it's like, and we all are like very excited about it because you think, hey, what if we get something like this? Yeah, but we'll be doing it next year as well. I think we're pretty, this was the first time, and it's actually, when we ran it, we came with like lots of do's and don'ts, and we understood how to entice people and what are the benefits of it. So even for the co-working spaces who participate or win finally, so definitely this is going to be an yearly thing for us.
Wonderful. And um, is this open to all co-working spaces? You don't have to be a member
And
of
it's
Cowork?
now you don't have to be a member of Cowork. Actually, I think two. Actually, yeah, 2 out of 4 were not member of Cowork. They have become now, which
Uh-huh.
is what we had wanted. Actually, one hasn't, but that's part of it. So that's why it's not all driven by the objective of increasing the places which are on our platform. If that happens, it's good. But it was never a condition that you have to be on our platform to win or to participate.
Wow, how fun. And so I'd really love to hear about the co-working scene there in India. You're in Mumbai right now?
I am in Mumbai right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where half of my team is. Actually, majority of my team is.
And then also in Hong Kong. I'd really,
Yes.
What can you tell us? Sort of the top 3 kind of big pieces of information about the co-working spaces in those regions.
Yeah, see, that I have traveled around the world visiting different co-working spaces, including US. It was great experience. And I am just amazed with the way this industry is actually growing across the world. You very correctly asked, Iris, that, between India and Hong Kong, because if you would have asked me Southeast Asia or Asia, I would have to split it because each country and even within country, like cities, they are doing differently. I think of this as like the different phases of co-working. So for example, in Hong Kong, what we are okay, let me just take a step back and talk about US. US is a very mature market for co-working. I feel there is a lot of of course the cost saving is there by co-working, but people are going to these places more for the community or the collaboration, creativity, or the culture of it. Whereas if you look at the Hong Kong side, Hong Kong and Singapore are actually at the same level. I would say there people are more interested in the community part of it. So, the networking events, they want a place where they can meet with others. It is about creativity now when the maker spaces have started coming up, which are dedicated to one type of creative field or the other. It is still to an extent about the cost as well. You want an economical place to work. India, on the other hand, is at the cost saving mode right now. So the users here, the providers here are majorly looking for an economical way or an affordable way to access professional work environments. So, the emphasis on building community has started coming up, but to be very frank, that is not what a lot of users are looking for at this stage. So it is very interesting. It's I would say co-working in India right now is like how US was like after recession. So there is a lot of unused commercial space in India. So there is a lot of supply, and there's a lot of demand because the whole startup ecosystem is growing, and there's this drive to do something of. So there is a demand and there is a supply, and because of the infrastructure constraints at this point of time, it is not easy, for example, for someone to just set up their own office. You don't get those plug and play offices set up by yourself. And plus traveling, for example, in big cities is a big challenge. So nobody wants to spend time commuting. So everyone has like these constraints they want to work in, and there is a demand and there is a supply, and everybody wants to make money, and they want like a working relationship, like, so they are open with the idea of sharing, because that's what the culture has been, and Airbnb is also doing pretty fine in India. So a lot of people are going to co-working spaces because they know they can save money, and it's less of a hassle, basically. It will grow to the sense of like community and other things. For example, there is one, I think, one creative maker space which is coming up now, but it's very specific, like hardware focused NGO types of a thing. But everything else right now, it's very commercial, professional environment at an affordable price.
Wow, I really, really like your sort of sky-high view of the co-working industry, and your reasoning around it. I find that really, really fascinating. I'm curious, do you think that community will eventually be a focus in the spaces in India? Or is it possible that people in India have community already, and so that's less of a need? I mean, people people require a sense of belonging anywhere, right? And certainly a work community solves a different problem for a person than a family community, or a worship community, or a spiritually based community, or any other type of community, your sports team, or what you do for fun. But I'm curious, do you think that the focus on cost savings and less on community is due to the maturity of the market, or do you think it's also possibly that it's not as much of a need? Whereas here, where I live in the Silicon Valley, people were really lonely working at home, and maybe there isn't as much community here.
Yeah, I think it's both ways. And I have to say that, there are some co-working spaces in India which have started playing a lot of importance on building up community. There is one specific chain, it's called 91 Springboard. They are doing like great stuff in opening, they're opening offices across cities. Within cities, they're opening multiple locations, and they're organizing events pretty much on regular basis. Beehive, as I mentioned earlier, coolest co-space winner, doing a great job. There is another one which comes into my mind is Innovate. It's in Delhi, the capital. They are doing a lot of stuff as well. So there are places which have realized that there is some need or there is a need for networking events, or building up the community within their space. But from the user point of view, yes, they would like to have access to networking events, but they don't expect their co-working space to organize it for them at the same time. They want to meet people, and as you said, there are different platforms for them to already do it, like through their friends and families, or meetups are very common in India as well, for networking events, etc. So it's kind of, I think it's both ways. There is less of a need, and I think there is more of an effort right now as well from co-working spaces side. So it hasn't reached the stage where, if let's say I am going for a co-working space, I would say how many events are being organized here. That is still not a very important criteria in co-working space selection in India as of now. Whereas, in Hong Kong, when I was looking for a space for my team, it was one of the biggest criteria. I wanted to make sure that they can go out and learn and, meet with other people at the space itself, so they don't have to travel. So I think you said it very correctly. There is a lesser need as well. Plus there is more of an effort, which leads to the fact, right? If there is no demand, why would you supply it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are seeing co-working spaces recognizing the need to create, that platform for their users to connect with each other and to network with others.
Yeah, and to solve societal problems, which for me is a huge driver in my love of co-working, right? When you have this group of members who self-identify as members of that space, and they they learn from each other and share a passion around something that they might not have previously learned about or known about or really even paid much attention to. For instance, in the space that was a member of for many years, we live I live between San Francisco and Los Angeles in California.
Mm-hmm.
And so every spring or every June, there's an AIDS ride where people ride the 500 plus miles from San Francisco to Los Angeles. They cycle that ride and they gather donations in doing so. And so the goal is to raise awareness around the need for HIV medications and research and just awareness around HIV in general. And oh, by the way, you train for a year on your bicycle to ride 500 miles, and what a feat you've done as well. So several of our members formed teams because one member brought the idea in. And so for 4 years running, we had members ride in this AIDS ride that would have never done something like that had they not learned about it from a fellow member. So to me, that, and not only that, but they hosted constantly hosted events all year long to fundraise from our community for the ride. So to me, that's one of the huge powerful pieces of co-working is that what that community can then do once it is engaged with each other.
I think that is such a beautiful example of, where co-working can be, and, how it is like way beyond it, how it is not just about going, having an office space. I think that whole idea around like, community and collaboration and for a good cause, I think that's something which it'll be great to see in India, though I have not even heard of an example as of now. I hope somebody proves me wrong and say that they're already doing it. This is amazing. I wish somebody does that. I am going to float this idea, something similar at my co-working space where my team is working from.
Awesome. Well, so what do you see as somebody who's running a company that is really running in the future of work? I mean, that's what we're in, right? We're working in the pathway to the future where the world of work and the way that people work and the work that people do is being transformed sort of as we're talking right now. So what is your big prediction around the future of work for 2017?
It's a good one. Okay, I think I'm going to talk about like Hong Kong and India as two markets, two parts of Asia where co-working is growing. See, in India, what I think is going to happen, as I said, we are at a nascent stage in co-working, because there's a lot of unused commercial space. There are a lot of suppliers. I think a lot more and more operators will come and will open their co-working spaces in India. And I think 2017 would be an year when the different operating models of co-working space would be tried and tested in this market. And hopefully we will see eventually, some consolidation. But this phase is definitely going to be a lot more players entering into the market, trying to figure out different ways of running and making co-working spaces profitable. The other thing, within India also that I would see is probably, a little bit more like national level spaces coming up. So, expanding beyond a city that you are in. So the big players who have started establishing themselves, they would actually go beyond one city or two cities they're in, because they have got that repeatable model and, funding and scales, etc., to try it out in different cities. For Hong Kong, actually, I think Hong Kong is at a stage where, the trial and everything has happened. So we have seen a lot of co-working space shutting down in Hong Kong, which is always an interesting story. And now, basically, of course, we have seen like multiple locations of few chains opening up. I would see actually Hong Kong, co-working from Hong Kong to actually expand to other countries. So, there is one chain there, it's called it's Hive. They already have multiple locations within Hong Kong. I think they have expanded to Bangkok and Singapore. And I wouldn't be surprised if they enter India next year, because it is actually a very, growing market for co-working spaces. So for an international player to enter India, just like WeWork has done, I think that's something which I would expect to happen.
Wow. So I have not yet been to either India or Hong Kong, but I
You have to come and visit us.
I would love to. I have heard, though, from several friends who've traveled and looked at co-working spaces that the market is just exploding with huge spaces and big companies moving big spaces in, and the goal being to be as giant as WeWork, to expand all over the place, which is interesting because it's so different from what the push in the beginning here of co-working, or the first 3 years, because I think you're about 3 years in really into the impact there. That's very different than what the first 3 years here were about, which were really just about individual little spaces, building. And of course, I think somewhere along in there, maybe at the 5-year mark, I'd say that's when we started to really see the Galvanizes, the Industriouses, the WeWorks pick up and really take off. But I'm really curious to see what happens in 2017 with all of these spaces.
I know. Yeah, that's one thing which you pointed out. It's like we saw it earlier this year. HSBC has moved to WeWorks in Hong Kong. So they moved their 300 plus employees, like out of their famous iconic HSBC building to WeWork. So definitely that's something which would happen. However, from India, I'm a bit skeptical. I think we are a bit far away from that in India for like any big company to take such a step. We had some rumors about one of the startups doing it, but not sure if it's true or not yet. But that's something which we should see in India, because believe me, in India, as I pointed out earlier, the whole infrastructural problems of traveling, commuting, everything. It's just crazy that people spend 2-3 hours covering less than 10 miles of a distance on average to reach their office. And that's where actually co-working can make such a big difference, not for organizations' productivity, but also for the work-life balance of their employees.
Yeah, and the environment.
Exactly. Oh, that's number one, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. Well, honey, I just feel like I could spend so much time talking with you, but we are out of time today. So I will definitely have you back to talk more. I just have so many questions. So do tell us, what's next for you?
Next for Kowrk is actually we entered US market few weeks ago, and the focus right now is going to penetrate that. It's a mature market, it's a different set of player. I think the things over there are going to be totally different. The challenges are very exciting and a different level than what we are facing and actually conquering in India, Hong Kong, Singapore. So US is going to be big for us, and that's where we are going to focus a lot of our efforts in coming months.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the US. Let me know what I can do to help. Well, honey, thanks so much for joining us today. It was just lovely to chat with you.
Thank you, Iris. Thanks for having me. I had a great time talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for other episodes, you can go to coworkingwithiris.co, where you can also subscribe to the podcast. Next week, I'll be speaking with Cobot about their co-working platform, and I'm looking forward to it. They are pretty much the oldest co-working software, space management software that exists, with the exception of Nadine, perhaps. And so really looking forward to diving into that conversation. Keep doing the great work you do every day. Keep making the world a better place. Thank you.